4 top tips for breaking old habits. You know what they say about old habits? Old habits die hard. These tips are tailored to make breaking old habits easier. This guide will introduce you to becoming aware of and breaking old habits by giving you 4 top tips to break old habits. Becoming aware of habits. Becoming aware of habits is the most important thing you can do to break old habits. To become aware of your habits, you must become aware of the 3 things that go into making a habit: the cue, the routine, and the reward. The cue is the stimuli that causes the behavior of the habit. The routine is the habit behavior, and the reward is the benefit of the behavior. For example, if you have a habit of biting your lip when you're stressed about work, the cue would be stressful situations at work. Routine is the biting of your lip, and the reward is, presumably, the relief of stress. Identifying behaviors of your habits, or the routines, can be the easiest part of the habit to identify. To determine why you engage in this behavior, you must determine the perceived reward or benefit of the behavior. To determine when you engage in this behavior, you must determine the cue or stimuli that provoked this response. There are many ways to become aware of your habits. One of the best ways to become aware of your habits is to keep a habits journal. You can note behaviors or thoughts that come up repeatedly in each circumstance in your journal, or you can make a list of habits you'd like to develop and mark off when you do them. Tip 1. Replace the old habit with a new habit. An excellent way to get rid of an old habit is to replace it with a new habit. This can ensure that you're still getting a reward in that circumstance. It's just with a different behavior. For instance, if we go back to the previous example of biting your lip when stressed at work, you could replace that behavior with something more productive, like doodling on a piece of paper. Whenever you catch yourself biting your lip at work, or you know a stressful situation is coming up, stop biting your lip. Next, grab a pen and paper and start to draw. Tip 2. Create reminders and notifications. Reminders are super helpful when trying to break old habits. Create a set of reminders for yourself to note throughout the day that remind you of several different things. You want to have reminders that are positive and inspiring, like, "You can do this." And you also want to have reminders that encourage you to reduce or stop a certain behavior, like, "Don't drink a soda right now." Tip 3. Use the mindfulness practice to your advantage. Mindfulness is not just for yoga or meditation sessions. It can be very helpful in breaking old habits or any habit that you want to get rid of. Mindfulness can help you to become aware of your actions and can provoke thoughts as to why you are engaging in this behavior as a way to recognize cues and rewards for your habits. Tip 4. Prepare yourself for mistakes. Mistakes and trip-ups happen. That is almost guaranteed with anything that you do, especially when it comes to breaking old habits. Habits are so ingrained in our processes that it can be hard to break them. In the words of our favorite blue fish, just keep swimming. 5 habits to break ASAP. There are some things that life is just better without. Bad habits are one of them. This tutorial is meant to help you become aware of 5 bad habits that you need to break as soon as possible. These habits are meant to be ones that you will strive to avoid. The habits are numbered 1 to 5, growing more difficult as the number increases. None of these may come easily, and you may get discouraged, but keep up the work on breaking these bad habits, and you will reap the rewards that come from new, healthier habits. Okay, habit number 1. Saying yes to everything you get offered or invited to do. Saying yes is not always a bad habit, but when it becomes your go-to answer for everything, you may need to replace this habit. When you say yes to everything, you can have the tendency to overbook yourself and end up with conflicts. These conflicts can lead to strained relationships with others as you're constantly changing around your schedule to make room for everything that you've agreed to do. Saying yes to everything also takes away from the time you could be spending doing the things that you want to do. Personal time and free time are important. Spending time with those closest to you and by yourself can help you recharge your social battery and can provide some much needed downtime. Habit number 2. Not including self-care into your routine. Self-care is super important. Many of us take it for granted, but factoring in little aspects of self-care throughout your day can make a huge difference. Nutrition and hydration are forms of self-care. Making sure you eat 3 nutritious meals or an equivalent number of snacks a day, and making sure that you get your 8 cups of water a day are some basic but beneficial forms of self-care. Meditation and mindfulness practices can be great forms of self-care. These activities can help you become more aware and intuitive about yourself and your actions. This awareness and intuition can help you notice and change your daily habits. Lastly, doing something for yourself every day can be empowering and an act of self-care. Whether it's eating a treat for dessert, reading some of your favorite books, or watching a certain movie or a show. Make time to do something for yourself every day. Habit 3. Snoozing your alarm too much. Sleep is extremely important both for self-care and as a habit. Snoozing your alarm clock too much is not a good habit to have. It can make you more tired and have bad health repercussions. Snoozing your alarm too much will not put you back into a deep enough sleep to be effective, and the jolting awake each time the alarm goes off can raise your heart rate and your blood pressure. Habit 4. Having a beer or glass of wine after every stressful day at work. Drinking beer and wine is not inherently bad. It's just how you choose to do so. Having beer or wine after every stressful day at work can lead to a dependence on alcohol to relieve stress. This may cause you to drink higher quantities of alcohol to relieve even more stress, which can lead to health problems. Habit 5. Smoking and vaping. Last but not least is one of the most apparent examples of a habit you need to break ASAP. I'm not saying it's easy to quit smoking or vaping, but it can lead to a better overall hygiene and health for you and those you love. 5 habits to use with social media. Social media can be a great way to stay in contact with old friends and to make new friends. Despite all the benefits that social media has to offer, there are plenty of bad habits that you can develop when using it. In this tutorial, I will guide you through 5 good habits you should use with social media to make the best of your social media experience. Habit 1. Take breaks. With the advent of TikTok, Instagram Reels and Explore pages, it can be tempting, and sometimes inadvertent, to spend hours and hours on social media. It's extremely easy to just keep scrolling past posts. It takes minimal brain use and minimal effort. It can be almost addictive to keep scrolling and to double tap posts that you want to like. Breaking this pattern is a good habit to get into. Spending all day on social media can have many negative side effects. Set the phone or tablet down every once in a while and go for a walk or have a mindful cup of coffee. Habit 2. Monitor screen time. Sometimes social media can be the first thing we check when we wake up and the last thing we check before we go to bed. This may not always be a bad thing, especially when you're connecting with friends in different time zones, but that time can add up and take away from your time in the morning or at night. Many phones now have settings that allow you to put time limits on certain apps. That can be especially helpful with social media when you may not always know how much time you're spending on each app. Many phones also have a screen report at the end of the week. Set goals for yourself. Watch yourself make progress in real time every week. Habit 3. Connect with friends off social media. While social media can be a great way to connect with friends who live halfway across the country or in another part of the world, it is important to make time for your friends who live around you as well. Have some coffee with friends at the corner coffee shop or invite your friend group out to dinner. Make time to spend with friends in person, rather than just over FaceTime or Messenger. Habit 4. Use social media for inspiration. It can be very easy to get into the habit of comparing ourselves to others through social media. With social media, we see the best parts of everyone's lives, the parts that they want to share with the world. We need to keep this in mind when we're on social media and try not to compare ourselves to what we see online. It can be difficult not to compare ourselves to others, but it can be helpful to reframe any comparative thoughts we make into thoughts of inspiration. Habit 5. Use social media with a purpose. Sometimes we just pull up social media platforms when we're bored. This isn't inherently a bad thing when it happens occasionally, but it can easily become a bad habit. Try adding other things to the list of things that you do when you're bored. Try to make sure that when you're using social media, it has a purpose, like to connect with a specific friend or to share something that you just experienced, instead of just using it because you're bored. 5 people who say a lot about habits. We all know people who have a lot to say. Why don't we spend some time listening to the people who have a lot to say about things that matter? Like our habits, for instance. Habits are the foundation of our life. Why not take some time to listen to some people talk about the foundation of our lives? This presentation introduces 5 incredible people who happen to have a lot to say about habits. The first one is James Clear. The renowned author James Clear is also an entrepreneur and behavioral science expert as well. He is also a photographer in over 25 countries. He focuses on habits in his book titled Atomic Habits, an excellent read by the way. Much of his habit focus is in the areas of creativity, motivation and not wanting to give up. James Clear is an excellent speaker in all of these areas, in addition to being a great author. He publishes newsletters and articles on his website, jamesclear.com. Stephen R. Covey. The late Dr. Stephen R. Covey was another person with a lot to say about habits. He also wrote many books, including The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You should give it a read if you have time. In addition to being a writer, he was an educator, a business person, and a keynote speaker at many conferences. He focused in depth on educating people about habits, how to develop and change habits, and how habits are formed. Patrick Edblad. Patrick Edblad is another exceptional author in the world of habits and certainly has a lot to say on the matter. Like James Clear, he also publishes weekly newsletters that are great for many habit-related things. One of his most famous books is titled The Habit Blueprint. I highly suggest checking it out sometime. Edblad is a well-known mental coach who provides people with science-based strategies to perform better, and many of these revolve around habits. If you're looking for habit-building skills that are based on thought-provoking theories, Edblad is your guy. Check him out at patrickedblad.com. Gretchen Rubin. Gretchen Rubin is an author who makes the most out of her language to tell the world all about habits. She is a blogger and a speaker in addition to being a well-known author. One of her excellent books on habits is called Better Than Before. Rubin also talks a lot about habits on her podcast. If you're interested in podcasts, hers is a great one to listen to while forming new habits of your own. Perhaps listening to podcasts when you do the dishes will be your new habit. Take a look at her website for more information. GretchenRubin.com. Charles Duhigg. This last author on our list, Charles Duhigg, has so much to say about habits it has won him a Pulitzer Prize. Duhigg is an author and journalist for the New Yorker magazine and previously worked at the New York Times. Duhigg focuses a lot on habits and productivity. A lot of his work has to do with the world of business. If you're looking to build better habits on the job, check out Duhigg at charlesduhigg.com. 10 habits to improve your life one day at a time. How do you win a race? 1 foot in front of the other. How do you win at life? 1 day after another. You can harness the power of habits one day at a time to improve many different aspects of your life. This presentation will walk you through 10 different habits that you can add into your daily routine that will help you improve your life. Habit number 1. Brush your teeth immediately after you wake up. This may seem like a silly habit. However, brushing your teeth immediately after you wake up is a great habit to get into. It prevents you from forgetting to brush your teeth and is an easy time to remember when setting up the habit. Habit 2. Turn out the light when leaving the room. This habit can make you more environmentally friendly. Whenever you leave a room, turning out the light can save energy and be more sustainable for the environment. It can also save you money on utilities. Habit 3. Do a core workout before you go to sleep. Just like brushing your teeth when you wake up, the timing of doing a core workout before you go to sleep makes it easy to remember when setting up the habit. Doing a light workout before going to bed can make it easier to relax and go to sleep. Habit 4. Limit checking your phone while working. Limiting the amount that you check your phone while working can be a good habit to increase productivity. Many phones now can be put on Do Not Disturb or Work mode to help reinforce the need to check your phone less. Habit 5. Drink a glass of water every hour. Hydration is important to many different aspects of your life. Drinking a glass of water every hour that you're awake will ensure that you get the right amount of hydration. Habit 6. Eating breakfast. Eating breakfast is a good habit to get into. It ensures that you have energy for the day, and it can help you better sustain energy throughout the day. A healthy breakfast with the right amount of protein is best. Habit 7. Practice meditation before beginning to work. Practicing meditation is an excellent habit to get into, and doing it before work can help increase productivity. Allowing your brain to unfocus for a bit can help it get into the focused mindset necessary for peak productivity. Habit 8. Make time for friends and family every day. It can be easy to get caught up in work or school and forget to make time for friends and family. Not only is it a great break from work and other parts of your daily routine, but it can also mean a lot to your friends and family that you're spending time with them. Habit 9. Self-affirmations in the mirror before you leave in the morning. Self-affirmations are not just for children. Everyone can benefit from self-affirmations. This is a quick aspect of self-care that you can integrate into your daily routine and can help interrupt negative thought patterns. And finally, habit 10. Track your habits. Tracking your habits can be the key to success. The more goals you set for habit forming, the more important it is to track those habits. Keep a journal and mark off if or when you've done each habit. Best 5 books about habit building. Books are knowledge, and knowledge is power. You can use this power to build better, stronger, more adaptable habits. This tutorial will further your habit education by providing you with the best 5 books about habit building. Atomic Habits. Written by James Clear, this book takes you on a journey to get rid of bad habits and to form new habits. Clear writes out 4 distinct steps that happen every time we engage in a habit: cue, craving, response, and reward. To form new habits, Clear discusses 4 ways to make them more easily accessible to you. These new habits must be obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. This is a great book if you don't know where to start, but you know you want to change up some habits. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The next book on our list, by Stephen R. Covey, is a book for people who want to become more effective. This book lays out 7 distinct habits that highly effective people have that you can incorporate into your own life. I won't go and spoil any of the exploration you can do while reading the book, but I will give away one hint. Basic is best. Prioritize things that are important to you and go back to the basics. Reading this book will help you learn how to say no and will give you the tools you need to become an active listener. The Habit Blueprint by the author Patrick Edblad. The Habit Blueprint is a great book for habit beginners. If you've just started to become aware of your habits, this can be a great book to get started with. As the title may suggest, it is more or less a how-to guide to habits. Edblad has some excellent tips and tricks along the way to guide your habit-forming process. Edblad helps you diverge from habits that aren't helping to creating habits that will be helping. Better Than Before. As portrayed by Gretchen Rubin, Better Than Before is a great book with many other resources to help you on your habit journey. Rubin discusses 4 different habit tendencies that people can fall into. Becoming aware of these can be exceptionally helpful. Tracking your habits is a big part of the book, so be prepared to have some homework. This book can help you become aware of your habits, a key point of strategy when it comes to getting rid of old habits and making new habits. Keep a pen and paper handy as you read this one. The Power of Habit. This last book on our list, The Power of Habit, is written by Pulitzer Prize-winning author Charles Duhigg. This book is not only written exceptionally well, but it also has some excellent content. Duhigg focuses a lot on the scientific discoveries around habits. It may be difficult to understand a lot of scientific research as it comes out, and this book does an exceptional job of breaking it down so you can understand it easily. Duhigg also focuses on willpower and how to change your willpower over time. Habits create the foundation of your life. Nearly everything you do can be broken down into habits. Using habits themselves as the foundation, you can build various elements of your life through using the advantages and benefits of these habits. In this presentation, we will discuss how habits create the foundation of your life and how to use these habits to achieve your goals. What are habits? In what order do you get dressed in the morning? Do you put your right sock on first or your left? Does it not matter? These are all habits, things we do that are automated. We don't even think about them. More specifically, habits involve 3 parts: a cue, a routine, and a reward. The routine is the behavior that we typically think of when we think of a habit. The cue is the stimulus that causes said behavior, and the reward is the perceived benefit from that behavior. Good habits and bad habits. Habits come in all forms. Smoking is a habit. The way you brush your teeth is also a habit. We typically break down all of these habits into good habits and bad habits. Good habits are habits that have a positive routine and a positive perceived reward. For instance, eating a nutritious breakfast is a positive behavior, and the reward you receive from eating a nutritious breakfast is beneficial. Bad habits are habits that have either a routine or a reward with negative consequences. Smoking, for example, is a bad habit. Despite the perceived reward of relieving stress or promoting a relaxing feeling, the long-term consequences are not beneficial. Building to achieve your goals. You can build on this foundation to achieve your goals by first becoming aware of the habits that you currently engage in. Because we typically don't notice this behavior ourselves, it can be helpful to bring in friends or family members to help you recognize different behaviors or habits that you've picked up. For you personally, it can be helpful to keep a habit notebook. This notebook is where you write down habits that are pointed out to you or habits that you yourself notice. You may even get into the habit of using this notebook to record other habits you have. Once you begin to become aware of your habits, it'll be easier to introduce new habits to achieve your goals. Begin writing down some goals that you have and some ways that you could achieve them. Maybe start with little things that you could add into your everyday life, like drinking a certain amount of water every day or getting up and doing some exercise in the morning. With these activities, you'll want to substitute them in place of already formed bad habits or just habits that you want to change. For instance, let's say you always spend 20 minutes in the morning on social media and you think that going for a run would be a better use of your time. Change that habit. You can build better habits to achieve your goals. It'll take some time because some habits are so ingrained in our daily life, but you can do it. When you put in the work, you'll see the rewards. Good luck. How habits impact your quality of life. From your sleep patterns to your choice of food, habits can greatly impact your quality of life. There are many different aspects of life that are drastically impacted by the habits we have unintentionally created. Both good and bad habits can impact your quality of life. In this presentation, I will discuss how habits impact your quality of life and what you can do about it. A brief overview of habits. A habit, in simple form, is just a repetitive thought or behavior that is pretty much automated in nature. We may not even notice that we're doing it. What we consider to be habits are made up of three distinct parts: the cue, the routine, and the reward. The cue is the stimulus that causes the habit's behavior. The routine is the behavior of the habit, and the reward is the perceived benefit of the behavior. These three aspects are combined to form a habit. Good habits. Good habits are habits whose routine and the reward are both things that will benefit you. Sometimes rewards can be hard to observe because they're delayed. This is also known as latent rewards. But even delayed rewards can be categorized as beneficial or not beneficial. Some examples of good habits are regularly drinking an appropriate amount of water every day and regularly eating a balanced diet. These are some of the more obvious examples of good habits because the health benefits of both have been very carefully studied and the negative consequences of not doing them are noticeable. Some habits benefit you, but you may not be able to see any distinct rewards right away. For instance, saving for retirement can be challenging, especially as a young adult. There's no immediate reward for that, but down the line you'll receive the reward of a greater amount of savings. There are also habits that may seem to have beneficial rewards, but in reality, the negative long-term reward outweighs the short-term benefit. For example, smoking and vaping can seem to relieve stress in the short term. However, the long-term negative health impacts distinctly outweigh the brief stress relief in the moment. Bad habits. Bad habits are habits whose either routine or reward brings about negative consequences. Some examples of bad habits include smoking and vaping, drinking alcohol or soda in excess, and not eating a healthy diet. Bad habits like these have more obvious negative consequences than other bad habits. There are some ambiguous habits too, but more often than not you'll be able to categorize them properly. So, what can you do about your habits? Well, first, examine your current habits. You can engage friends to help point out the habits that you have, that you've become so accustomed to that you no longer even recognize. Maybe engage some family members to monitor your habits, or ask them if you had any habits at a younger age. Next, you want to replace your bad habits with good habits. Whenever you catch yourself engaging in a bad habit, or a friend or family member points out a bad habit that you're engaging in, try to stop yourself and engage in a different beneficial activity. For instance, if you crack your knuckles when you get irritated, try putting your hands in your pockets instead. Over time, you'll change the behavior of the habit completely. Habits can be extremely powerful, but you have to use them to benefit you. Make new habits fun with these 4 tips. Apparently, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. You can, however, make new habits fun. In this guide, you'll find 4 tips to make new habits fun, so you'll never want to miss a beat. Tip 1. Start small. Starting small is one of the biggest ways to make new habits fun and an enjoyable experience. You want to start small to give yourself more manageable tasks so that you can build up to the big stuff. Small habits could be to switch out a glass of water for every other soda that you drink if your goal is to drink less soda. You want to break up your goals into smaller pieces and add in small habits to replace habits that you want to get rid of. Tip 2. Start with things you enjoy. Begin with the habits that you're putting in to enjoy your life. This could be adding in a new exercise routine if you like to work out, or it could be writing a novel instead of spending as much time on TikTok. Whatever your goals are, be sure to add in some habits that are things you enjoy. That is an important aspect of self-care, as well as a way to make building new habits a fun experience. Tip 3. Invite friends to do it with you. Making habits fun can be done by making habits social. You can invite your friends to change their habits too, or you can invite your friends to do certain activities with you. This can make your new habits more fun and can also be a motivating factor. If your friends are interested in changing their habits too, look for new habits they can start that are fun. Maybe you can incorporate some of them into your routine so that you can do them together. You might even get a new habit that way. Tip 4. Reward yourself. You're doing a great job, even just getting started. Don't forget to reward yourself for the hard work that you're putting in. Just because you haven't completely reached your goal yet doesn't mean you aren't working hard. Rewards can take all sorts of forms. Maybe you have a little extra dessert on a weeknight, or maybe you read one of your favorite books. Perhaps you spend a little extra time golfing on the weekend, or maybe you take a half day on a Friday. Whatever a reward is to you, go for it. Final thoughts. Creating habits can be a difficult experience, but don't let that discourage you. There are always ways to learn new habits. You can substitute these new habits for bad habits or just things that you want to change. The more you become aware of your habits, the more you can substitute these old, bad or boring habits for new, good and fun habits. These new habits can bring many benefits with them. Make the most out of your habits. Habits are the foundation of life and can be extremely important in shaping who we are and what we do. Try to use your habits to your advantage. The power of habits. We all do things that we don't necessarily think about or even recognize that we do. These are our habits. These habits, so ingrained into our routine and daily life, are almost inescapable. In this tutorial, I'm going to discuss what habits are and why they have so much power. Okay, Habits 101. Habits are extremely powerful and we all have them. For instance, we all have the order we get dressed in the morning. Do you put your socks on before or after your pants? Do you brush your teeth before or after you're fully dressed? These and many other habits create your daily life and your daily routine. Your day is just a collection of various habits created for different reasons and at different times. Understanding what habits are, how they're formed and how you can change them are at the core of harnessing the power of habits. So what are habits? Well, habits are a huge part of our life, but what exactly are they? Everyone always talks about habits and certain habits you need to break, but rarely is what they are discussed. Habits are essentially thought patterns that are used in behavior often over time. They're used so often in thought or behavior that they become automatic reactions to certain stimuli. The automation of habits can make them almost invisible to us, but maybe not to others. So, how are habits formed? Habits are formed through a three-step neurological pattern that involves a cue, a routine, and a reward. A cue is the stimuli that causes your brain to react. It can be receiving a text notification, waking up in the morning, or a certain sound. It triggers a certain behavior. A routine is what we often consider to be the habit itself. For example, a routine could be that you check your text messages immediately after receiving a notification. Or it could be that as soon as you wake up in the morning, you go to brush your teeth. A reward is what happens after the action of the habit is completed. It's generally a positive aspect or something that benefits you from executing the behavior. If you check your text messages in response to the notification, you have the benefits of knowing what the other person texted right away. If you brush your teeth immediately after waking up, you may maintain good oral health and not forget to brush your teeth. Habits with immediate rewards are easier to notice than habits with rewards in the long term. For example, the habit of checking your text messages may be easier to recognize as a habit than, say, brushing your teeth at the same point in your daily routine. Powerful habits. Habits become so powerful because they become automated. We may not even recognize the cue at all. Sometimes we don't receive the cue very often, so we don't associate a certain behavior as a habit. Or sometimes we are aware of the cue and the behavior, but we don't understand why we're doing it. All these things are important to address when harnessing the power of habits. If you want to use the power of habits to improve your life, you need to become aware of the cues, routines, and rewards of your daily life. Try keeping a journal of different things that you notice. You'll not become aware of all your habits overnight, but it's always a good exercise to keep track of what tasks have become automated in your life.